Now, when we finish our graduation, some of us are looking to straight away get a good job. However, a significant number is exploring post-graduation as a next step in their lives. And 43% of the learners who are interested in higher education do not know where to get started. I'm sure many of you attending this session here also have similar questions and have been wanting answers related to overseas education and how to get enrolled in the best universities across the world. Moving ahead to our next session, I would like to introduce Ms. Archana Rao, a senior counselor at ReachIVY. Welcome, Ms. Rao.
Hi, Maya, and everyone here. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Thank you. So Archana has pursued an MBA from Darden University of Virginia and holds a BTech in Electronics and Telecommunications Engineering from Army Institute of Technology, University of Pune. As an Army kid, she studied across 8 different schools in conflict-prone regions in India and was selected as a Teach for India Fellow and was a founding member of an HBS lead venture called Mentor Me India. Archana currently leads strategy for 600+ sales team for a large US EdTech publisher as the Senior Director of Sales Strategy and Operations. She was pivotal in designing the first of its kind Netflix for textbook subscription model, including its pricing, commercial, product, and go-to-market strategy. A very, very warm welcome to you, Archana. We request you to shed some light on overseas education and how to break the Ivy League code.
Sure. Thank you so much for that introduction, and really excited to be part of this panel and speaking with all of you about cracking the Ivy League code. I know it's really mystifying. A lot of people wonder what it sort of takes to crack into some of the top schools around the world. And I'm here to demystify some of that precisely. So I have a presentation here, and obviously I want to keep this session very conversational. So if anybody has questions along the way, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we can take them as and when we get the questions. There's really no need to sort of wait till the end. Hopefully the presentation will also answer some of your questions, but if you have any pressing questions and if you have anything on your mind, feel free to sort of share them. I'd really want to make sure that this is a conversation session. Does that make sense? Great. So with that, I'm going to share a quick few slides that we've put together, and hopefully you can see them in the slide share mode. Are people able to see that?
It's visible.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So it's a very short sort of slideshow, and we've put together a few students who have cracked some of these top universities. So I'm just going to quickly play that, and then we'll jump into some of the slides, if that's okay. Great. I know that was fairly quick, but hopefully that gives you a mosaic of all the different universities and global institutions that our students have reached. So a little bit about ReachIVY. What is ReachIVY? ReachIVY is a boutique firm based in India, started by Ms. Vibha Kagzi, who herself pursued an MBA from the Harvard Business School. And she realized that there was a gap in knowledge for how does anyone sort of pursue further studies, not just in master's, but even undergrad from India. And so we provide a number of different services regarding study abroad, of course, studying in India as well, and also career guidance around what you want to further pursue your career in. And of course, our mission is really to provide very unbiased and realistic counseling to anyone who's seeking help with their career and higher education. And of course, this can be a very overwhelming journey. So we hope to always demystify some of those myths that people might have around studying abroad, and also just making sure that we help them along their process as seamlessly as we can. A little bit about me. I know Maya, you already shared a background, but just some of the different places that I've been. Very much like every Indian kid, grew up studying engineering because I feel like that's a rite of passage, right? And very soon realized that, well, while I really enjoyed the quantitative studies, my mind was in business. I really had a flair for business, and that's what led me to business school at University of Virginia, Darden. And since then, my career has spanned across consulting firms and private equity firms in business, particularly with education technology. This is such an interesting space. And even currently, I'm leading a strategy for an education technology firm based in Boston. And so that's a little bit about me. And I also, of course, work with ReachIVY as a senior counselor, because I feel like when I was reaching out for business school and really had very little knowledge about what it takes to get into a business school, and someone like Vibha, who was such a good mentor at ReachIVY, really gave me that guidance. And I just wanted to pass that on, be a mentor for other students, folks who are thinking about studying abroad, pursuing their masters, pursuing their undergrad, and really sort of figuring out what they want to do for a career. And so this is one of the ways that I'm able to do that on top of my 9-to-5 job. Like I've already mentioned, we do provide services for study abroad and career guidance both. And remember that it's everything from undergrad, so right after your high school, once you graduate your 12th grade, if you're pursuing an undergrad anywhere in the world, MBA, of course, master's programs in various disciplines, a PhD, and also executive education. A lot of people mid-career decide that they want to go back to school, and we also provide a number of services for executive education. So one of the ways that we try to help students is really sort of keep it very student focused. There really isn't one way or one formula that sort of helps you get through any of these universities. It is really dependent on what the student wants to pursue, what their interests are, and it's extremely personalized because each student, each individual has their strengths and areas for development. And what we really focus on is identifying what those are, helping hone them, and really sort of guiding them through the process as we think about applications. And of course, like some key numbers here, we all love metrics. We just came from a big data session. So here we have it, right? A lot of our students, close to 100% have admit rates for the different packages that we take. And of course, most of the services are available globally because we are primarily an online platform. So everything that we conduct is via very seamless online platform. So you could be sitting anywhere in the world, India, abroad, what have you, but you'll be connected with your personalized counselor and they will be walking you through the entire process. Yeah, just another quick mosaic of what are the different universities that a lot of our students have been to. And of course, this is a growing number. So we're really proud of each and every student who has achieved their dream of studying abroad and then, of course, pursuing what they want in their further careers. I find that this is a really helpful timeline. So for everyone who's sort of starting the process or even thinking through what they want to potentially pursue, right? You could be in your high school, you could be, and again, I think this group is very diverse, right? I believe it's students from, from the age of 18 all the way to professionals. So hopefully this will give you a good idea of what it sort of takes in terms of working backwards from the process of identifying what schools you're looking at and working backwards. So very broadly, it is ideal, obviously, if you start planning and building whatever master's, whatever undergrad degree, whatever further study abroad education that you're looking at, to plan at least a year in advance, if not more, right? So for example, if you're looking at undergrad, which typically starts after 12th grade, it is advisable to start looking at any sort of universities or what you might want to study, at least in your 9th grade, 9th, 10th grade. And similarly for a master's program, if, for example, if you are looking at universities for a master's program, right after your undergrad, a couple of years in that's when you want to start thinking about it. Especially for an MBA, it's about 3 to 4 years. But before that, I would say that it is helpful at least a year in advance. Now, what we start doing is obviously planning and building what your profile would look like, what sort of universities you're looking at, and then over the year, really sort of strengthening some of your key areas of development, what you're already, what some of your strengths are. So playing to those strengths. And then really three to a month before application deadlines, we really consolidate all of your achievements in essays, in the application, get your transcripts together, make sure that you have all your standardized scores, right? So you might have to take the GRE, or you might have to take the GMAT in case of masters. In case of undergrad, you might have to take the SAT or an ACT. And these are all exams that are fairly standardized, like all of the standardized exams in India as well. And of course, as the dates get closer, everyone gets a little bit nervous, but yeah, just keeping a calm mind, walking you through the entire process, and we're sort of there through the entire process, and just making sure that you go in with a calm mind and put your best foot forward. So that's generally the timeline for when you start thinking about studying abroad and what needs to happen, just backtracking from that. Any questions there? I know students typically do wonder, how soon should I? Okay, sorry, I think there was a slight switch in the network, so hopefully you can hear me better. Okay, great. Let me just continue. So yeah, this is really one of the ways in which we think about why does anyone sort of study abroad, right? Like, why would you think about picking up your bags and baggages from a country that you've been born and brought up in, and seek an education outside of your country typically, right? Of course, there's a number of different great universities within anyone's home country as well. But why do we study abroad, right? Typically, any educational degree, be it an undergrad degree or a master's degree, is really to help you build a bridge to what you want to build as a career, right? So it's really employment opportunities. If you're really interested in, just taking an example of, you were an engineer probably, but you really want to now, just taking my own example, want to build a career in business. So an MBA degree really does help you with that holistic understanding of all the skills that you require, from a very quantitative heavy background like engineering to now learning about marketing, learning about sales, learning about strategy, operations, all of the different skills that one needs in a business career. So it's really employment opportunities, right? A lot of students, in terms of, think of this as a rite of passage of, just sort of living on their own, moving outside of their home country, moving away from a very sheltered sort of environment. So obviously a lot of students find that very exciting. I think by far for me, the biggest reason is building a global network, right? Making sure that you're able to really sort of broaden your horizons. What tends to happen typically if you kind of are in the same place over your studies and sort of work in the same place continuously, sometimes we sort of get very pigeonholed into thinking a certain way. So just having a global network opens your eyes to different perspectives and different opportunities across the globe. So that, I would say, is one of the biggest reasons a lot of people study, pursue careers abroad and study abroad. And of course, a very diverse skill set, right? Because what tends to happen also, if, like I said, if you are in a similar area, you tend to sort of just get better on the same sort of skills. But studying abroad and really sort of picking up degrees that have a diverse set of skills will help you build that as well. So just a number of different reasons. It's very personal to each person why they study abroad. It could be a combination of one or more of these, or all of these. Right. So the other question that I often get, and we often get, is, okay, where should I study, right? So this is a very important question to obviously tackle, because once you've made up your mind that, look, I want to study abroad, I really want to broaden my horizons, I want to get a global education, where should I even start? There's so many great universities across the globe, right? Typically, some of the top destinations that students do prefer, obviously the United States being one of the largest countries for welcoming a large international student population. You obviously have, Europe. Within that, UK is a big destination. Canada is a pretty big area that people definitely go and study. Middle East, Australia as well. So there's obviously, all over the globe really becomes the world is your oyster. There's just so many options, and that can also be confusing and overwhelming for anyone who's looking to study abroad. But obviously within the United States of America, which is by far one of the biggest playgrounds for students who sort of want to pursue a global education. Everything from a number of great public universities. The ones I think you can see in yellow are all the public universities. You also have the Ivy Leagues, which are marked in red. And then, of course, a lot of the liberal arts colleges. There's a number of private institutions. But the US by far does seem to be a big draw for a number of international students. I know this is kind of like an eye chart, so you can really sort of zoom into some of these. And most of you may already be aware of a number of these universities. There might be a few, lesser known universities as well, but they all have a really good reputation, obviously in the US and also globally. Any questions here?
Thank you. Yeah, Archana, we have one question.
Sure.
So someone has asked, how should I prepare for a study abroad interview?
A study abroad interview. So I'm assuming you mean when you are applying to universities and you get an interview call back. Yeah. How would you prepare for that?
Yeah,
absolutely. That's a great question. And unlike a lot of universities in India, the application process, especially even for undergrad and masters as well, does include a very important component, which is the interview. And typically what they try to gauge in the interview is really sort of get to know you as a person outside of the application that you've sent across, right? An application is really just like a two-dimensional version of you, which is primarily your marks, how well you did in school, maybe your employment record, things like that. But an interview really, much like, how we're all sort of interacting right now versus, sort of getting a deeper understanding of who you are as a person. What are some of your passions? What makes you you? And is that then a really good cultural fit for the university that you're looking to apply to? So an interview really sort of gives you that opportunity. So in terms of preparation, I would say, they try to keep it mostly behavioral. So just going through any sort of behavioral questions, right? Like it could be anything from, please describe, some of your strengths. What are some of your passions? Like what was probably the hardest thing you've ever had to do? How did you overcome it? They're really sort of trying to get to the crux of who you are.
Yeah.
Right? And what makes you you. So hopefully that should help. But of course, every school does it differently. Some schools have a more technical interview, but typically it is more related to getting to know you as a person.
Super. Thanks, Archana. We have another one now in the current COVID times. How has study abroad been affected? Like, how many selections? How has the entire scenario sort of changed post-COVID?
Absolutely. And that's a great question, right? We often get this question around, look, what are the number of applications that have gone out? What are the acceptance rates, so on and so forth. So I'll say this, right? Broadly, what happens anytime during uncertainty, especially as students, like in terms of recessions also, you may have seen this in the past, or of course in the pandemic case where there was very high unemployment. A lot of students do tend to go back to school, right? Because unfortunately, people may have lost jobs, people may have been reassessing their whole career, and it is a great time to go back to school. So we have seen that during the pandemic, especially as soon as the onset of it, so October 2020, the fall of 2020, all the schools across the globe, not just the United States, saw a huge spike in applications. right? Which is understandable because a lot of students were reassessing their career, reassessing what they want to do and go to school. So as a result of that, it became an extremely competitive year for that year. But having said that, now over the past year, things have leveled off. The economy is doing better across the world. Things are sort of getting back to some sort of normal that we can see. So I would say that applications wise, things are sort of coming back to normal and really sort of leveling off. But yeah, we did see a number of students applying to study abroad, and it was a competitive year for sure. But at the same time, schools also went online, which means a lot of schools either opened up their courses or admitted a few more students. So that's definitely something that we saw. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, superb, Archana. There are a couple of more questions, but in the interest of time, what we'll do is we'll sort of reach out to you with those questions, and then we can communicate the answers back to our audience. Also, I would like to tell all my audience here that, anyone who's looking for advice on, further studies, please, we already have your details, but please drop in your names and numbers here, and, someone from ReachIVY will reach out to you very, very soon.